like over there is the purest form of life, in my opinion. Every day you wake up with a purpose. Every day you wake up with a job. You're surrounding this community, this tribe that's super strong.
Mm-hmm.
There's real life, immediate consequences to certain thing. And there's not a lot of long-term, like ethereal consequences. Like I'm not thinking about my taxes or am I successful in life or like these big overarching concepts like I'm hungry, I eat. The enemy's over there, we go get them. I need to sleep, I sleep. Everything is immediately solvable, which I think is a big thing that our society is plagued with, is not having immediately solvable problems.
Right.
And so living that, in my opinion, like that pure of a life of being overseas and being in the infantry and then coming back here to like this nerfy little life.
The soft life.
Yeah. So it's a stark contrast.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. So then you have to create it in a sense for yourself.
Exactly. You have to create it and you have to tell yourself that it's just as purposeful.
So feel me when I bring it, singing loud. I'm from the loot and I'm proud, run a mile for the call.
Hi guys, it's your girl Nachama, your favorite Jew from the Lou. Welcome back to my podcast. And today I am so excited and honored to have Tim Appelbaum with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And I think you're so cool. There's so many layers to your story, but I always like to say how I know my guests, how we got connected, and you actually reached out to me.
Yep, I've been trying to get my message, trying to get everything out there. And in traditional St. Louis fashion, turns out we know some of the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was great to connect, and here we are.
Yeah, I love it. And I really admire how you put yourself out there because I used to have so much anxiety and used to be super shy. And I feel like it's still in me a little bit. And so I don't have the luxury of not putting myself out there when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a business owner. No one's going to just hand you opportunities, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe for a few select people that happens, but for most people, you have to just put yourself out there.
Oh, no, I've been taking lots of moonshots.
Yeah.
Reaching out there. That's how I got involved with that yoga festival out in Teton National Park.
Yeah.
How I've gotten a lot of the opportunities I've got is just like, well, this person is super big, but let me just reach out and throw it out there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So let's start with you, your story, and who you are and how you got here today. So there's a lot to unpack there. Mm-hmm. Let's start with childhood because I feel like that's always where everything stems from.
Of course.
So tell us a little bit about you. You're St. Louis, born and raised.
I am.
Okay.
Yep. This is going to be one of that like SpongeBob meme where it's like ... 4 hours later.
I love that one.
Yeah. So I grew up here in St. Louis. I grew up in Valley Park, went to Twin Oaks. Mm-hmm. And then the cool part about that is it feeds into Westminster. So a lot of the same friends I had in high school and still have today I've known them since preschool.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then at Westminster, played hockey, captain of the hockey team, and then left to go to college, did a year at Mizzou in the naval officer program to become a Marine officer.
Yeah.
And then while I was in Mizzou, they closed down Iraq and they withdrew all troops. And so from there, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to watch war my whole life and not get to go. And so dropped out of college, enlisted, went to boot camp a month later, and then was overseas a year later.
So what drew you specifically to like the Marines? Because I feel like, not to stereotype, but there's a certain amount of like insanity that you have to be part of the Marines. Like it's such a brotherhood from what I've seen and the people I've met. They're just truly solid guys. A little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of bit crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you just perfectly explained my personality.
Okay.
But no, it's funny. Sometimes when I've been on dates with people and I'm like, oh, I went out with a Marine one time. And it's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different stereotypes.
For sure.
The Marines drew me for a couple of different reasons. The big thing was that they were always like the first to fight, whether that's marketing or whether that's actually true. Mm-hmm. You know, going into the toughest places and being the first people on the ground is, if you want to go to war, that's how you want to do it. You know, no one wants to be the other guys in 300 when they're calling out their job titles and they say blacksmith in person, they want to be the warrior.
Yeah. Okay.
And to me, that was the Marines.
So that's your inner masculine, just being like, gotta fight, gotta protect.
Yeah. I mean, it started going back to childhood.
Yeah.
You know, I was always that kid that was playing with army men growing up, you know, going and shooting BB guns in the woods and playing army, playing military. So it was always going to be a life goal. But when you get closer to it, you have to decide like what you want to actually do.
It's the reality of it though, too. It's not just fun and games and like saying, oh yeah, I fight for my country. Like actually doing it, there's a lot of trauma that comes from that and PTSD and...
Yeah, I'd say the depth of it doesn't really hit you until you sign the will. I remember we were all in a gym and I was like maybe 19, maybe 20 years old. And they're like, all right, here's your will. And it was like just like a line, fill out this, this. I'm like, oh, I'm 19 filling out a will. It's like, I've never thought about this before. Do I give it to my mom? Do I give it to my dad, to my brother, to this person, to that person?
Wow.
Like, and so that was the first like depth and gravity of it. And then also before you go over, they give you like, once you know exactly where you're going, they give you like specific intel briefs. And at that time, 2011, YouTube had been on for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to actually like go watch videos of our area and like all the bad stuff that was happening there and all the violence. And so we were like, oh man, like we're literally about to be there in like 2 weeks.
So like, also, I mean, at 19, you feel pretty invincible.
Yeah, there's a reason join the military when you're young. It's because you are there for such a short, you're on Earth for such a short amount of time that you feel like you're invincible.
Right.
You know, and that has definitely left my body at this point. But at that point, you don't even think about it.
Right. I mean, for the most part, especially if you are healthy, why would you, and especially if you haven't dealt with any death within your family, like any immediate family members, the concept of death feels so far away.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's out there, you know, it's going to inevitably happen, but
yeah, it's this big ethereal concept that's like in the winds or when you're 80, but even the bravado behind that, you know, being in the military before you go to combat and you're like, oh yeah, if my legs get blown off, I'm just going to go out in a blaze of glory, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all super dumb. But like that bravado I think it only exists when you're young.
Right. And also I'm sure being around all the other guys, because when a bunch of guys get together, it just feeds off the energy and they're all just more competitive and pushing each other to like.
Exactly. There's not a lot of like Nobel winning prizes happening in a Marine barracks, riling each other at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is not the exact same analogy, but I just was thinking about an episode from Love Island. I don't know why.
You'll have to educate me.
Love Island's like a dating show where it's just a bunch of hot people that are put on this island and there's all these games and whatnot. And at a certain point, they always have the girls leave the island for like a spa beauty day or whatever. And the girls are always like, I wonder what the guys are thinking about. I wonder what the guys are doing. And I remember like the first season that I watched when it was like the guys alone on the island and there's no girls to try to impress and there's nothing to do. They literally were just making like a human power that they were just like jumping on each other. And it was just like so funny. I'm like, that's such a guy thing to do.
Oh yeah. I always think about the scene from Zoolander where they're turning into apes and they're like trying to hit the computer with like the hammer. It's like, oh, that's what guys left alone would do.
Literally. I think I would give you a year left of humanity. I mean, besides the fact that you guys couldn't have kids without women, but like just like what women do, I think it's just so interesting, which will tie into our conversation later with like yoga and yin and yang and all of that. But going back to serving, how long were you serving in the military for?
I only did 3 years.
3 years only.
Yeah,
you say
my
only
contract
like that,
was for more, but I didn't transition super well back from overseas. So I was dealing with some of that. And then at the time, they were trying to shrink the size of the military. Yeah. So they were letting people out 6 months, 8 months, a year early. And kind of like you're seeing today with the buying stuff out, they're like letting people out of their contracts. And so the coordination of those couple of things together, that it got out in like 3 years, 3 months and 1 day.
So you were like 21 at that point, 22?
21.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what was it that was like, that happened, if you're comfortable talking about it? I like just going and asking the hard questions, but like, what was that transition like and what happened that made it so difficult?
Yeah, I mean, the transition, objectively, going back from a combat zone to coming back to getting phone calls every day, getting text messages, having to respond to emails, like all these different things is objectively different and hard. I'll never forget the first weekend I got back, I got my phone back because I didn't have my phone over there.
Oh, wow.
And I threw that thing against the wall because I was like, all these people are trying to text me and call me and welcome me back. It's like, now I'm just beholden to this device and it controls my life. Like I just threw it against the wall and broke it.
Yeah.
But
I relate to that, even though didn't go through what you went through. But sometimes it's just overstimulating and overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. Well, and once you've been on the other side of it, you know, if you've had a phone your whole life, you probably don't know any better. Mm-hmm. But when you go 7-8 months without a phone and then you're like, beep, 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 every 3 seconds, it's, yeah. But really what it was I like to tell it like my nervous system wanted to stay. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to stay over there, and my nervous system never really came back. And so, like, even now, I think with like rose-colored glasses, like being on a patrol base with the boys and going out on patrol and going on attacks and different things, like, it sounds like the greatest thing in the world. When I was there, I know how it was, but like, it wasn't a specific memory or a specific thing or anything like that. It was just, I came back and I started not being able to sleep, and I started wanting to go back, and I started to not really deal with like civilian things super well. And so it was just time to move on.
Curious question. Do you feel like that lifestyle just really fit you well? And so coming back, not having that structure, not having the camaraderie and just that order of what you're doing with your day and that purpose.
Yeah, well, I always think about that episode of The Office. Do you watch The Office?
Sporadically.
Yeah. So that safety episode where Michael's trying to do the safety brief and he jumps off the roof, the bouncy castle. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
But in that scene, in that episode, there's a part where Daryl's like, your little nerfy life. And that sounds denigrating to use it in this context, but like over there is the purest form of life. In my opinion, every day you wake up with a purpose. Every day you wake up with a job. You're surrounding this community, this tribe that's super strong. Mm-hmm. There's real life immediate consequences to certain things. And there's not a lot of long-term, like ethereal consequences. Like I'm not thinking about my taxes or am I successful in life or like these big overarching concepts. Like I'm hungry, I eat. The enemy's over there. We go get them. I need to sleep. I sleep. Everything is immediately solvable, which I think is a big thing that our society is plagued with, is not having immediately solvable problems.
Right.
And so living that, in my opinion, like that pure of a life of being overseas and being in the infantry and then coming back here to like this nerfy little life.
The soft life.
Yeah. So it's a stark contrast.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So then you have to create it in a sense for yourself.
Exactly. You have to create it and you have to tell yourself that it's just as purposeful.
Yeah. You
know, because you can tell yourself that you found purpose in this company or I found purpose in this cause or this or that. But you have to, it's almost like a placebo where you have to sell yourself that, oh yeah, me working for this company and helping people is just as impactful as me taking the Taliban out of this village or me pulling my buddy out of a gunfight.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a little bit of like suspended belief is what I was looking for.
Yeah. And it's so wild hearing you say this because I think on a certain level, a lot of people feel what you're feeling, whether they've served or not. I think just this is a humanity feeling, like wanting purpose and wanting to matter. But then also it's just you get caught up in the humdrum of everyday life and what everyone's doing. And, you know, it's the only thing that's certain is that you pay taxes and you die, right? And so I think a lot of people struggle, especially if you get caught up in like corporate worlds where it's like, especially if you're not in a leadership position, you're so disposable. And that's such a terrible feeling because like you can give so much to a company and in the end of the day, be replaced and not matter.
Exactly.
It's wild.
So I guess you have to have a little bit of that suspended belief where it's like, No, I do matter. No, my company does care about me. Even though they would replace you tomorrow.
It's a story you have to tell yourself. And that's something I went through. I worked corporate for the past 8 years as a graphic designer. And I've worked in 3 different companies. And each of those companies, I really like put myself out there. And there was always a certain point towards the end when I left, or they made me leave, that they say with corporate, you have 4 options in your career. You're either going to get fired, or you're going to get promoted. You're going to stay in a position that means nothing, does nothing, or you're going to leave and follow your dreams and create some sort of passion project and be an entrepreneur, which is inevitably what I ended up doing because I need to feel like I matter. And then I'm giving back and I have value in this world, you know?
Exactly.
And I think every person has value. Every person has a soul. And it's not everybody gets to have the luxury to pursue that. You have responsibilities, you have family, you have kids. Not everybody gets to just pursue their passions recklessly.
Exactly. You got to take that opportunity when it comes, because if it doesn't come at the right time, you'll have to let it go by the wayside.
They say like the graveyard is where there's like the most dreams that have just never come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first went on this path to like creating my own coffee company and like pursuing my podcast as well, I'm like, there's something so beautiful about this pursuit process where it's not where I want it to be yet, but I'm going after the thing. And if I were to, God forbid, like die tomorrow, I have no regrets because I'm doing my best versus like working a corporate job being like, wouldn't it be nice if one day? So what was that like for you? Obviously, I feel like you're more well-rounded. You have a place in the community. You're helping others. So what was that transition like from when you were 21, trying to figure out how to get back into civilian life to where you are today?
Oh, back to that 4 hours later.
Yeah. Take your time, wherever you want to take this. This is all about you.
Yeah. And so when I got out, I was still on that struggle bus of trying to figure out what's going on and dealing with some different consequences and symptoms. But I found out that I really liked working with kids. And so when I came back and I was getting out, I started signing up for classes to work towards elementary education. Then I ended up working at a summer camp, and I tested myself. I was like, all right, I'm going to work with the middle schoolers and high schoolers. I'm going to work with the little kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to see which one I like. Because with the older kids, you're more of like a mentor or like a coach.
Yeah.
With the younger kids, you're more of like a parent or like a fun uncle.
That's such a good way to describe it. I have a lot of people in my family who are educators in different grades, so I relate to this a lot.
So I tested those out and found out I liked working with the younger kids. So I did that while I went to Mizzou and transitioned to elementary education. And then did that for a few years in Tower Grove.
Yeah. And you were working more with like inner city kids, right?
Yeah. So I taught in Tower Grove at a charter school for 2 years and some change.
Okay. Educate me. Educate the audience if they don't know. What is a charter school?
So it's a weird gray area because the public schools realized that they couldn't offer such a specific thing like a private school, but they realized that people wanted that rather than this broad spectrum, whole community serving public school approach.
Okay.
And so they created charter schools, which is this in between. So a charter school has to have, I think it's 1 to 3 things that make it different or that make it unique. And then like you'll do like the language immersion school. Okay, it's the language immersion school. That's their unique thing. They're a charter school. Or one of the schools around here back in the day was like a Harry Potter school.
What?
Where it's like each class, like there was like 5 or 6 houses within the school. And it was a way to like bridge the gap between grades.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Did it work out?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was made by not this mayor, but the last mayor's son. And so obviously he got some special treatment. And so I don't think it went super well because he probably shouldn't have had that opportunity.
In theory, it sounds cool.
Yeah. But so with the charter school, it's an in-between between a private school and a public school. Okay. So we have 1 or 2 things that make you different. And then you draw funding from the public schools. But other than that, it's free, but it's a lottery system and then a legacy system. So like if your brother and sister are going here, like obviously your younger brother or sister will also get to go in. But in the beginning, it's a lottery system. You get sent to any charter school.
I would love to connect you with one of my guests because she was a high school English teacher for 10 years. And then she realized that the education system creates a culture of burnout. Mm-hmm. And teachers are in this serving energy, right? And a lot of them don't have a full gas tank.
No.
And there isn't really space within their own personal lives and their own mentality towards teaching, but also within like being, supported by the school to have space for wellness and even bringing that into the classrooms as well. So her name's Sarah Bland, and she created like a tangible product. It's a planner that not only helps with lesson planning, but it makes you make space and time for your health and wellness and your goals throughout. And then she also has been doing these like events and going into schools to create more of a space because she's trying to make a change because she saw the burnout.
Yeah, the usual lifespan for a teacher from starting to ending is 3 years.
And so was that about your lifespan as a teacher, or how long were you there for?
Yeah, but mine I think was a little bit more unique because I ruined teaching. I ruined teaching by, as a graduation present to myself, I went and stayed in Thailand for a few months.
Yeah.
And kickboxed through Thailand.
Right, because you're a fighter as well.
Martial arts.
Right, mm-hmm. You're a fighter as well.
Yep.
Did that stem? I mean, obviously, I feel like you've got a lot of stereotypical masculine energy going on here. But like, do you feel like that love of fighting kind of stems from a little bit of like your hockey background and your military background?
I think it's all about the challenge. I think martial arts has this unique ability to challenge you mentally, physically, and like spiritually, emotionally. Mm-hmm. Like you have to challenge your will to go on as well.
So were you doing this while you were teaching? You were doing martial arts there, or you discovered that in Thailand?
So I went to Thailand and lived for a couple months, and then I came back and I started teaching.
Okay.
While I was teaching, I did sign up for a gym here, but as we were just talking about, there's not a lot of time for wellness as a teacher.
No.
Yeah. And so I didn't really get to put my whole heart and soul into it. But then while teaching, I started to find a love for like nutrition and fitness as well. Mm-hmm. And then after those 2 years and some change, I decided to say screw it and just go full on into trying to become a professional fighter, as well as working as a personal trainer, working with nutrition and fitness.
Wow, that's so cool. Good for you.
Thanks.
I feel like you have this really cool spirit where it's like, think it, do it.
Yeah, some might call that dumb because I'm just like, I want to do this. Let's just drop everything and do it.
Okay, two questions. Don't roll it. My audience shouldn't roll their eyes at this. But first of all, what's your zodiac sign?
I think I'm an Aries.
Oh, are you? Me too.
Yeah.
That totally explains it.
Yeah, isn't that like fire and water?
And like the bull, the ram, where it's just like, even with my business partner, he's a Virgo, so he's like very grounded and logical, methodical. And so I describe our dynamic like a bull in a china shop, where I'm the bull and he's the china. I'm more of I just feel like I'm 28. I have enough life experience at this point. I know I'm still very, very young, but I have enough life experience at this point where I see patterns. And I've made it through my hardest days, and everything's figure outable. And even the things that I've jumped headfirst into, was it scary? Yeah. But you're so capable. And sometimes you don't realize how capable you are if you stay safe in your little bubble. You have to push yourself out there. And I love how you push yourself in all these different situations. Like even with, let's say, like the military, like when you went to go serve, you were just like, if I don't do this now, I will never get this opportunity. Mm-hmm. I have this calling. I'm going to follow it. And so you ran with it. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the Japanese had this thing, it's called misogi, where once a year they would go sit under a waterfall in the freezing cold, and it would like clean your soul for a year.
Oh, I love that.
And it's like that challenge of just like changing your life. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, let me do something really hard, or let me just like say, screw it.
Yeah.
Let's try something different and go all in. And that's a way that I've changed my life repeatedly over time, where it's like, you know what? I don't like where I am. I don't know how to get out of this. Let's just throw a curveball and go do something else no matter what happens.
And isn't it? I mean, let's be real. We are, I think, taking a moment and just like talking about like the highlight reel of how exciting and exhilarating it is to like chase after that. I'm sure you've had your moments where you've jumped into things and you've been like, fuck, what am I going to do now? Like, it's just sometimes just overwhelming, and you can get like a functional freeze where like, you know, you're on the right path, but you're like, yeah, I did just jump into this and there's a lot.
Exactly. Well, you always find out there's more than you think.
Yeah. Well,
and so,
everything.
Yeah. Once you get into something, you realize like, oh, I'm just going to put this board there and nail that here. And it's like, no, you need this A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You need to look at this and that. And it's the same with life, where it's you jump into these things and then it's going great for a while. And then the actual grind sets in.
Yes.
The actual work sets in where it's just, you have those moments. For me, I always have those moments of, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep doing these like extraneous things? Like, you could have just gone to school for business, worked in like finance or worked in real, like anything like that, and just had like a normal life and gone to college. Like, why did I do all of these things? Because I feel so uncomfortable in that moment. Yeah. And then sometimes I can sit in those moments for a few days. Yeah. Where it's just like, why did I do this to myself? Why can't I be like a quote unquote normal person? Yeah. But then I usually drag myself out of it. And I usually like get a win here or a win there that starts to build momentum. And then start it going from there.
I agree. Yeah. And I sometimes I just I like logically know I need to like slow down and be more methodical. And sometimes I have like entrepreneur ADD too, where I'm like, there's so many great ideas. Like, how do I pick and choose one? I always say like, my religious journey is a journey, but like I grew up super Orthodox, and there's still so many elements of that are beautiful to me. So whatever's beautiful, I keep, and whatever's not, it's a journey. We'll see what happens. But one thing I do keep is Shabbat or Shabbos, which is our Sabbath. And so Friday night at sundown through an hour after sundown on Saturday night, so for 25 hours every weekend, I go off the grid. I don't drive. I don't watch TV. I turn off my phone, all the food we make beforehand, and then it's just quality time with my friends, my family, and God and myself. And it's amazing. And I've always loved it, but being an entrepreneur, really need that time. And like, I always say, like, thank God I'm Jewish and I have Shabbos, because if I didn't, I don't think I would stop. Literally every time like I could plan something, I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I can figure it out, you know?
Exactly. No, I'm dealing with that right now with the business, because I'm like, we're trying to write a couple of teacher trainings, but then I'm also building this sauna van deal thing run ice bath and saunas.
Let's pause, because I know about the business, but I don't think we've talked about how you got into it yet. So tell us about your business. Tell us what you're doing now.
So after fighting, after teaching, after all of that, my last fight, I got knocked out twice in the same fight. Not recommended. Had a concussion for about a year and a half. But while I was doing that, I had already started my yoga teacher training. And then after that, I graduated, taught yoga at various places for a couple years, went back to teaching preschool to pay the bills, which was awesome in and of itself. And then it was either I was back in that rut, back in the I don't know what to do, what's going on, so we got to pull an audible. And it was either go back to school for physical therapy or start a business. And luckily I had some money saved, and then my dad also had some money. He's like, let's just go for it. Yeah. And so now I own a yoga studio in Wildwood, Fox Company Yoga, and we're running that thing.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the name.
So my unit in the military was, everyone is very belligerent. And very funny. And so we had lots of very belligerent and non-professional nicknames that I could not use for a business. But I wanted a way to connect my past to my present. And also, one of the big parts of this journey has been feeling comfortable in the yoga space as a non-traditional like yoga person. Yeah. Like, I don't own any Lululemon. I have no matching outfits. My mat at the beginning costs like $25.
Yep.
And so how do I honor that like becoming comfortable journey and like that I'm a different yogi. I'm not like everyone's great, but like I'm definitely a little bit less traditional. And so how do I bring that into the studio?
I think you're more traditional than that, actually, because the yogi that you're describing is the American yogi, not
I'd say a less
yoga.
Traditional Western
there we
yogi.
go. Yeah.
To where that's a huge impediment for a lot of like police and firefighters and military veterans getting into the yoga space, which would be extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
But because the consumer facing side of it is very one way.
It's very white woman.
Yes.
To be fair. But I think that's changing and shifting. I feel it. I've seen it. And like, I love the fact that like you're a man with a very like strong masculine background and you have a yoga studio, and the way that you're going about your business and what you're wanting to bring to the community, I think is so unique and so cool and so important for everyone. And I personally don't really have any like professional Lululemon sets. Like I usually wear like the tennis skirt and like leggings that I get from Amazon. My shirts are usually from like t-shirts that I get from whatever freebies I can get from whatever in my lifetime, or Walmart or Amazon. Like it's nothing fancy. And I think you don't need to be fancy. Like, and I think there's so much thought with yoga that it needs to be all this equipment and you need to look a certain way and be a certain type of person. But all you have to do is just show up.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult because now being a studio owner, I see a lot of what that is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is it's hard to make money doing yoga, even though it's your passion. So it's easy to succumb to more of this commercialism. And going back, there's nothing wrong with the Lululemon and the matching set. Like there are so many amazing people at my studio, moms, business owners, different things who would fit that traditional Western archetype, who are amazing people and so impactful around them. But it's just speaking as a whole and speaking as an industry rather than one or two people, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of our studio right now, where our classes have like 25 to 30% guys in every class.
That's awesome.
And then our population is extremely varied between ages, between obviously male and female and different things like that. So it's kind of weird how it worked out, because when I was a personal trainer, I worked at a bodybuilding gym. I'm not a bodybuilder and I'll never compete in bodybuilding. So I used to get all their wives and girlfriends and moms and dads and things like that to help train them. And so it mostly turned into me fixing their shoulder, me fixing their knee, making sure they could get out of a car, different like physical therapy type goals. And so that's kind of what yoga has turned into also, to where we have a lot of clients who just want to be longevity.
Right.
Or just want to be more mobile, or just want to feel better in their everyday life.
Yeah, just comfortable in your own body.
Exactly. We have, I love my population and I love my people. And it's very few of the, let me put my leg behind my head and take a picture on Instagram,
Fair. Just a little brief shout out to my coffee brand. We're drinking my Sumatra today. Super excited about it. I love coffee, and a dark roast is always something that I've loved because it's like bold and strong, but I didn't want it to taste too earthy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
No, it's great. You can feel the strength and you can feel the coffee flavor without it tasting like dirt. Mm-hmm. And also without it feeling like it's going to hurt your stomach or like it's so strong and so acidic.
Right. It's a good thing we're doing it now too, though. It's like early in the morning right now. It's a little after 9:30 because, it's really good coffee. So sometimes I'll make it for myself like late at night. And I have my dark roast. If I make it after 2 p.m., I will be up till 3 a.m.
Well, I'm sure you know this, but the original reason for coffee was nighttime. Was at night they wanted to have different discussions about like politics and different things like that, but they were always falling asleep. So they came up with coffee to drink at night so they could have late night conversations.
I love that. I did not know that. That's so cool. Wait, who are the they?
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Somewhere in the Middle East. Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee's fascinating. Like there's so much culture behind it. And I love how nowadays, like we can just know so much because we can travel so easily and communicate so easily.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, it was so isolated that but you still see how much coffee had an impact in so many different cultures.
Exactly. And how it's used in different cultures and the
Mm-hmm.
different types and the different places and what it's eaten with or drank with. Like it's all very cool.
Yeah.
And technology can be a huge blessing in that way, as much as we all talk about it as a curse. But I remember when I was a kid, we used to have like, it's not an encyclopedia, but it's the other one. Anyway, it's like a resource book about the world.
Okay.
It's like teaching you about the world, not encyclopedia, but something like that.
Okay.
And they had like this online component that was a code in the book, and you could like click on a country and see an animal that lived there and see a music and this and that.
Cute.
But like that was my extent of world knowledge. And now you give that to any 5-year-old and they'll laugh you out of the room because
Right.
they can know so much about the world from just a couple clicks.
It's true. Yeah, I think about that because like I was the generation that was just at the cusp of smartphones. Like they came out when I was like middle school, high school.
Mm-hmm.
I got a smartphone in high school. I was like one of the first ones who had one. But like thinking about like when I'm a parent, my kids are going to be raised in this generation where I'm like, I don't even know how to parent
No.
with this generation, with the access that they have to technology. It's wild.
The best thing I've heard is that some schools are transitioning to, you can have like a brick phone at school, but no more smartphones at school.
Good.
Because the problem is if everyone has an iPad, everyone has an iPhone at school, and then your kid doesn't have one, that creates othering.
Right.
Creates them getting picked on, even though that might be the right decision. So schools are taking that out of the equation and be like, you really want your kid to be able to call and text you during the day? Give them a flip phone. That's it. And so hopefully that continues down the line, because I think we have no idea what we're doing to people or to kids. And although like, yeah, it's not good.
No. But I'm going to use that as a transition actually to talk more about you and your yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about this RV van that you were saying before that you're working on.
Yep. So it's still in the somewhat beginning stages because, like I said, that entrepreneur ADD. I'm like this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. But what it is I love breath and exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And those events have been so impactful. And one of my...
With Josh and Cody.
With Josh and Cody and Luna.
Yeah. I haven't met Luna yet.
What's that?
I haven't met Luna yet.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah. Brief pause. I know Cody. I just met him in person just a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to him because he just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm about to. So I'm like, it might be smart for me to like talk to someone who actually did the thing. Because I'm very much like you, where I just was like called towards it. I found a Jewish organization that's going. So they rest on Shabbos. They have kosher meals. So I was like, awesome. I'll figure it out. I'll run. I'll train. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But yeah, so he's awesome. I've done one ice plunge where it's just like the breathwork session, the ice plunge and the sauna.
Breath and exposure.
Breath and exposure. I've done 3 degrees. That's a different one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to be doing one with Cody soon in a few weeks. And then Josh, I know from Sam Schaefer. Do you know Sam Schaefer?
Of course.
Okay. So Sam was a guest on my podcast and he was like, oh, you should have Josh. He would be amazing. And so I DM'd Josh and Josh was like, yeah, come to one of my classes first. And so timing wise, it just hasn't worked out where my schedule aligns with their classes.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm finally going to be going to it. So Cody's probably going to come on first and then I'll have Josh.
Yeah, no, breath and exposure is premier STL. Like they're awesome people. And Josh is also a Marine.
Yeah.
And so,
and a firefighter.
And he's still currently a firefighter on top of all the other nonsense he does and being a great dad and getting his kids involved in martial arts.
Yeah.
He's, as far as the veteran community goes, he's one that a lot of people should look up to.
Yeah.
And should try and steal from, for sure. So I did a couple breath and exposures with my friend Emily, who dragged me to it. So one of the things from overseas was there was this horrific event that ended up with me hypothermic to the point of like passing out.
Oh my God.
And they wanted to like medevac me. I told them no. And then it was this whole thing. It's one of the memories I tell the doctors a good amount. So for me, getting in the ice was death. My body instantly went back to that moment and went back to that. And so it was a struggle, and it took a few times, but I think I've done like 6 or 7 or 8. And then I actually got a chance to lead a couple this past fall, end of summer. And that was awesome. I ended up sitting in an ice bath for like 8 or 9 or 10 minutes.
Whoa.
And so I was like, okay, we got this. And so with the sauna van, we can do traveling around to people's houses or to different gyms in the West County area and bring that strong modality into West County.
That's awesome. I love it. That's something new that I tried just this past year, New Year's Eve, actually.
Oh, that's exciting.
What a cool way to like enter the year, right? I'd obviously done the sauna. That's like kind of part of my ritual before I go into the gym. I always sit in the sauna for 5 minutes, just helps loosen everything up. And I find it so relaxing. And then I also have done breath work, but not to that extent. I've done breath work like within yoga and just been centered in my breathing, but never anything that intense where it's like my throat's burning and you're feeling like hot in certain parts because your body's holding on to anger there, or cold in other parts because you're holding on to sadness, you know? Or we didn't go this far, but I know it can get super trippy in terms of like what you could experience and feel.
Oh yeah. I mean, breathwork is my favorite modality of all time. And then the breathwork, breath and exposure, bring your nervous system up, because it's just like any exercise. You don't just want to warm up your body. You want to warm up your nervous system as well.
Yeah.
If I go from sitting in an office chair nice and relaxed and I throw you in an ice bath, the bridge your nervous system has, the gap is incredibly large. But with breath work, we can close that gap to where it's like, okay, now we're just here.
Yeah.
Now we can calm down in that ice as opposed to just freaking out the whole time. So the breath work, your breath and exposure is unreal.
And then the ice plunge. So the first time I was like trying to like mentally prepare myself. So even just taking like ice showers just to kind of like prepare, but nothing can prepare you for an ice plunge. It's a totally like unique experience. I first got in, my brain was like, yeah, you did the thing. And then when my body and my brain realized that I can't leave it because it was for 3 minutes that I'm like sitting in the ice bath.
And everyone's watching.
I didn't really care about that. I don't know why. That part didn't bother me so much. It was just more about like I was freaking out. And my body was freaking out and I was hyperventilating. And I'm really good at like speaking what's happening. And I'm like, I'm having a panic attack. I don't know how to breathe. Help. And so the first time was rough. I did kind of at the end of the 3 minutes start to get my breathing together. But then the second time back in the ice plunge, because that's the part that they don't tell you right away, is that there's like rounds. So the second time was magical for me because I kind of knew what I was stepping into. So it was just as cold. That didn't get easier. But when I found like a focal point for my eyes just to kind of focus on, and then I started doing the box breathing that you're supposed to do. And then it was just like all of a sudden everything kind of calmed. Even though I was like, my body was like shaking and I was panicking. And then all of a sudden my body stopped shaking because there's that hyperthermal layer that goes around your body. And I felt like warm for the first time, but I'm in an ice bath. And then all of a sudden, like, there's so much that's being released. It was so...
It's really strong medicine, right?
And the way you feel afterwards and a few days afterwards is like, I went to the chiropractor right after that, actually. And normally I'm so tense. Like I hold on to like a lot of tension in my body. And even with doing like yoga here and there, like I'm a very tense person physically. And so he was like, I've never felt you this relaxed. So big fan.
Yeah, no, I was doing the sauna a lot from fighting. And as a way to lose weight. And then also sauna was like, I think it was like a 300% increase in testosterone, bunch of 100% in HGH. And then on top of that, you have the 20 minutes a day, 40% decrease in all-cause mortality. So I was doing the sauna for like an hour, 2 hours a day sometimes. I love that. But the ice bath is always the trouble. because it takes so much to put yourself in there and to get yourself through it first. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that at first, but then I realized, like, why is this so difficult for me? Oh, I see. Why I'm in like real fear about even just looking at this ice bath.
I had the real fear too, but you're going to laugh at me when you hear why. They were, the group that I was with, they were trying not to make fun of me, but like, so I watched Titanic in the Omnimax when I was 8. And so I'm afraid of water. And I'm afraid of swimming. And like, I remember when I started, I was kind of a late bloomer with swimming lessons. I started when I was 10. And the pool that like my instructor had, there was a sunroof, but my classes were always in the evening. So you could see like the reflection from the pool. And then I would have this like weird warped thing where it's like my brain would go back to the flashbacks of like viewing the scene where the water's crashing through that grand staircase in the Titanic movie. And like all of a sudden my brain would go into a panic where I'd be swimming and I'd be fine. And then I would see the water up there and I would feel like I'm surrounded by water and we're about to drown and die. And then I would just like have like this panic attack in the middle of the pool and just be like floundering. And so like, I totally forgot about this. I'm not really the biggest swimmer. We live in St. Louis, like pools you can just tread in. You're not really like having to swim. And there's no beaches here. And then I went to the ice plunge. And for some reason, that's the trauma and the memory that like brought back to me where I'm like, you're not in the Titanic. You're not dying. You're literally in this little bathtub. Like, you're fine. But it was so weird how that like was what popped into my brain.
Yeah. Well, to help you feel a little bit better, I'll talk to you about, we're all children of the media.
Okay.
And so like back in the day when I was in pools, I used to get this like weird sensation that there would be like a shark in the pool. This is like when I was like 7, 8, whatever.
Fair.
But it was like, you would just like get this weird creepy feeling that there was something in the pool with you and I'd have to like get out and like, so you're not the only one who had weird pool things.
That makes me feel better. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like we were talking just before we started recording about how like, there's so many different types of TV shows and movies. And like, especially a lot of women love to watch like true crime and stuff like that. Or they like to watch hospital shows or horror, right? I do not.
No.
I like Hallmark and I like anything that's just like sweet with a happy ending and just like very like, I don't know, chill and feel good. Because I feel like life is hard enough and scary enough. When I'm taking a moment to like veg out, I don't want to be more scared and more stressed. Yeah. You know, like I was watching Grey's Anatomy when I was in college and I've dabbled in wanting to be so many different things. But at one point I was like thinking about being a doctor and didn't end up going anywhere near that. But I loved Grey's Anatomy and I was about to graduate from art school with my bachelor's in graphic design. And I had a dream the night before my graduation that one of the main characters, Bailey, she popped up in the audience when I was about to go get my diploma. And she was like, girl, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm getting my diploma. She was like, there are people dying. You need to be a doctor and save them. Yeah. Isn't that crazy how the guilt just like...
And you feel it. It's real.
In my subconscious dream. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry.
At this point, we're all such products of media that we don't even realize how deeply it affects us.
And we're probably not going to be stopping anytime soon. But I think that's why you doing what you're doing to create space to teach people how to be present and take a moment, whether it's through a yoga class or through breath work or through when you get it up and running, like the ice plunge, like that's going to be huge.
Yeah. Well, the cool part about the ice bath and, you know, like all these things are fun to do in the moment, but it's what can you take with you throughout your day? So like think about an ice bath, huge amount of fear, huge amount of stress, but you calm yourself down with your breath. Now, next time you're at work or you're with kids and you're in this big amount of stress, oh my gosh, I missed an email, now my boss is yelling at me. Calming yourself down with that fear inoculation. You've been there before. What I always tell people about is the first time you shoot a gun shouldn't be when you're dealing with an intruder or in a gunfight.
Right.
you should shoot it well beforehand so you're there. It's the same way with stress. If you never experience stress and you never train under stress or you never have that fear inoculation, then the only time is when you're already out of control. And so the ice bath is that great modality to introduce that fear inoculation, that stress, and train with it. And also, if you like that kind of like challenging yourself kind of thing with the ice baths, Josh also does a bunch of swimming events.
I've been seeing that.
Yeah.
That looks really intriguing.
That could be another way where you could challenge yourself, because it's a lot of underwater and it's a lot of breath holds, and see if you can get yourself comfortable in that too.
Yeah. And that could be a fun way to get myself in shape for my climb this summer. I think for me, it's just, I'm such a physical person. I love doing physical challenges. And so like even at the gym, like I'm never the kind of person who can really just, let's say it's a cardio day. I can never just be doing one thing for my cardio. Mm-hmm. Like my ADD comes out so much at the gym, where it's like last week was the program that I'm following. It was a deload week. And so part of you still were working out, but part of it was like 20 minutes of cardio. Mm-hmm. I couldn't just pick one machine to do cardio because I got so bored. So I was using the Jacob's ladder, did that for 5 minutes. And then I switched to the elliptical, and then I went to the Stairmaster, and then I did the rowing machine. And then I don't remember what the actual name is, but it's like lean against the wall, and there's like the stair. It's almost like do you know what I'm talking about? The
Stairmaster or the like ladder version? It's
like a ladder, but it's not the ladder. It's you know what I'm talking about?
I do. No, I'm the same way. Okay. Back when I was first getting back into working out in college, it was do 5 minutes on the rower, do 5 minutes on like the assault bike, 5 minutes on the treadmill, and then that was like my cardio for at the end of every workout. Yeah, because I could not do more than that on like one machine.
Have you ever just been in like, I don't know, either something really bad happens or you're just feeling your feels one day and you like hit the assault bike and you're like at it like a Tasmanian devil and like you could tell that like people walking by are concerned about you.
There's like steam coming off of you, there's hate in your eyes.
Yeah, you're just like hitting it so hard because like, you know, the people you see on the assault bike who are like on their phones texting, barely moving it. And then like I'll be on there just like angry.
It's definitely a good way to get out some anger. I usually like to deadlift when I'm angry because it's a lot of weight and you can't go super fast with it. And so it's like, I want to be angry at this and I'm going to use all the power and all the anger to pull this thing up. But after like 2 or 3 rounds, I'm going to be exhausted as opposed to like 15 minutes on an assault bike.
I never thought of it that way. I'm always like, I got to move. I think the one thing that I can commit to doing for a long time is running, not on the treadmill, but outside. Mm-hmm. I feel amazing after that.
Yeah. I need to get back to running. Like the cool part about being a martial arts athlete is that you're so resilient and you're so like diverse that like I randomly just did a 5K one day in these chucks.
Stop.
And I came in like 3rd place.
What?
And I still hadn't run for like 3 years.
That's insane.
Just from being in shape for martial arts. So like that's how I viewed running. It's like, it's not the most. But now that I'm not fighting and now that I'm not training for like 6 hours a day, like I probably want to get back to running.
Yeah. There's a local runner's shop. It's called the Runner's Niche. Mm-hmm. I think I'm so bad with neighborhoods. I think it's towards downtown, like Sewell or Tower Grove, somewhere in there, I think. Google it. They're great. You walk in there and they obviously have a bunch of running merch, but the owner, he will train people and help them with running. And the only exchange your cost is that you have to wear his swag when you're doing the 5Ks and whatnot, which is so smart. And they'll also give you like these packets. And so that's what I've been following.
Nice little program.
I started, is it my 2nd week? Yeah, this is my 2nd week running. So I'm new to this. I did run like 10 years ago and I had an injury and I was like afraid to do it again. Mm-hmm. But back then I just was running to run. I didn't have any training or anything. I was just doing it, you know, which is very appropriate with my personality, but not appropriate for running. But with this one, I just started off small. Like, as you could see from my window over here, like you see like those islands.
Mhm.
I just run around there.
Yeah.
Because it's flat, it's outdoors, it's great, close by.
Yeah. No, that's exactly how I'm going to start out as well. Running like just little tiny increments and then building from there.
Yeah.
Because the weird part is, ever since I've been involved in fitness, it was right when CrossFit came out. And CrossFit
When did it come out? I feel like it's been out forever. It's not?
It was out in like 2006, 7, but it got really big in like 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
And so, and with that came the whole like primal movement or whatever, where people are like, this is how your ancestors would move. This is what would blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I've fallen away from that, it's still in the back of my head so much. There is an argument for not running. It's like, when do you think a caveman would jog?
When they're either running towards something that they're trying to hunt, or they're running away from something that's trying to kill them.
So you could get somewhere faster jogging for sure, but usually it would either be a sprint or like a walk, because you'd be like carrying something heavy.
Okay.
And so that's what I used to follow, was that jogging wasn't really primarily efficacious. So it was like, but it's a good skill to have. And so I'd work on like skill-based sprinting and skill-based like, sprinting and then like weighted walking. But now I've kind of flipped on that, and it's like, for me, I'm always going to gauge myself off of my military, because that was the last time I had like objective scores. And so for me, my goals this year are a 400-pound deadlift, to be able to run 3 miles in 21 minutes again,
Okay.
and to be able to do 20 pull-ups again, and have like a 300-pound bench. So that way it's like strength, but I can still move.
Yeah. So where are you with all those goals right now?
Very low.
Okay.
Very low.
Okay. Well, it's March. You've got time.
Yeah. Well, I always have this crutch, which is a dumb crutch that I shouldn't have, from my knockout and not being able to like lift anything heavy for a year and a half, 2 years. And so now getting back to, I'm like, oh yeah, I had this much. That was like 4 years ago at this point. Like, I can't keep using that.
Yeah.
It's me being lazy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm trying to get back to it. I recently joined Wildwood Athletic Collective. They've been great. And obviously yoga, and then doing stuff on my own. So we'll get back there. But I got to stop using that thing as a crutch. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, that's kind of like me being like, oh, I had an injury when I ran 10 years ago. It's like, okay.
Exactly.
And there's so many resources of people that I have now who know so much about like fitness and wellness that there's really no excuse.
Exactly.
I've always found, for me personally, if I just say, oh, I'm going to run, or if I say I'm going to have a certain goal, I always start off really strong. And that's, I think, an Aries trait, where it's like you have so much passion and fire to start something. It's like when the grind kicks in, the consistency, that's hard to carry on for me. That's something I'm working on. But like, it helps for me. So let's say Mount Kilimanjaro, right? Obviously, I want to be in the best shape that I can be by that trip. But that's still like 4 months away. That's long enough that I could not be taking it seriously. So I've been making smaller goals. So Sunday, March 23rd, in a few weeks, I'm doing a 5K. And so that's part of with my training, where it's like every 2 days I'm adding on a half mile.
It's good.
So today I'm going to run. I'm using this little fake Oura ring that I got from TikTok. It's $20 because I'm like,
if it works, it works.
This is so Jewish of me. I'm like, I'm not paying $300 if I can get the same thing for $20. It's fine. But it does work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. Like, why would I spend so much money?
Oh yeah, if you're just counting heartbeat and different things like that, and timing and stuff,
it's
and
my
just looking at
steps.
data, then you're fine.
I wanted the data on my steps, but I didn't. I knew I walked more than I was being accountable for, because I was using my phone to keep track of my steps. I don't like wearing things on my wrist.
Yeah.
So I don't ever have the watch, but like I was finding that I was holding my phone all the time. I was like, I don't want to be holding my phone all the time. So now with the ring, it's a way to track it. And it's not like the watch where it's like you still get texts and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm totally disconnected, but it's still keeping track, which is great. And so, especially with the running, now my steps are averaging like 10 to 15,000 a day.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome because I was at 3,000 before. So we're working on it. But last night I ran a little over 2 miles in 21 minutes.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
Getting there.
That's really good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And so I'm adding a half mile on today. The goal is to do it in 25 minutes.
Let's go. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Of course.
And I think breath and exposure and like doing the cold plunge kind of helped my mentality. Like you said, getting back in with your breath. I think sometimes as human beings, like when we get out of breath, we think something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go back into like that vegetative space, right? And so with running, I've realized like if I'm feeling out of breath, unless there's like a stitch in my side, I don't have to stop. I could just regulate my breathing while I'm running and I can keep going and it's okay.
Exactly. Well, the breath, that's how I got involved with the breath, is because when I went to the VA, when I finally went and got help like I should have a long time ago, they gave me this app to help me sleep and had breathwork on it.
Oh, cool.
But it was the most like angelic, like yogi, like, and breathe in and out. And for me, like just getting out of the infantry, I was pretty much feral. And so like, I was like, I understand that that's cool, but I can't listen to that. That type of talking, almost baby talking, seems like fire. So I went, but I also didn't want to be on this duffel bag of medication. And so I sought out other people and found Brian McKenzie, who Josh had also learned from. Mm-hmm. And he did breathing, but based on performance. He was one of the big leaders in CrossFit endurance. And then he wrote one of like the Bibles of personal training. And so learning from him and learning from more of this masculine approach and learning from more of this performance-based approach was how I got involved with the breath.
Right, because it's all about how it's taught to you. Like the concept is important, but how it's said is whether it's going to resonate or not.
Exactly. Like he cornered a UFC fighter is what it was. And like, oh, he's literally only in the corner for this UFC fighter to help with their breath. And I was like, well, if they're doing it, I can definitely do it. And so I looked him up and learned from him and then started on my journey with breathwork.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So what's to date today? Obviously you still have goals. There's still like, I think you're always going to be that kind of person. I think you're always going to have a fire in you and it's never going to be enough and you're always going to be running after something. But like looking back, what are you most proud of?
I would say, still most proud of is still going overseas and doing combat because my parents didn't want me to do it. They wanted me to be an officer. And then I was already in college. People were telling me I shouldn't leave that. And then I had to fight to get the infantry job because they have certain quotas. So like, oh, we don't have this quota. And then I had to like play hardball with them in order to get it. And then it was right during the drawdown. And so almost no units were going overseas, but I somehow got put in a unit that was the next one going over. And so all of these things came together in order for that to work out. And I think that was my like hero's journey, was going through that.
Have you read The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
But I know of it. And so for me, that was my hero's journey of like going through all these things, leading up to it, this, that, and the other, and then getting through it. But now it's on the other side of it. It's like, where do you find that drive?
Yeah.
Because I did what I wanted to do my whole life. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I wanted to go to war. I went to war. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a cage fighter. I became a cage fighter. And it's like, okay, well, I'm only 33. Like, I'm not retired. So what do I keep doing?
You've got so much life left, God willing.
Exactly.
What are you going to do with it?
The other thing is, as you grow and as you heal, for a lot of my life, I noticed that I use like hatred and like anger as like a driving force. And now I just don't have that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, when you don't like hate yourself or want to change things, or like you're not angry all the time, like what do you use as fuel? You know, so what do you use as motivation?
So what do you use?
I'm not going to lie. It's rough. You know, going to the gym when you're like so this way or also that way, I need to fix this. You're not good enough for this person or good enough for that. That's easy,
Right.
you know, but going to the gym because you know it's healthy for yourself is a little bit different.
That's so wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why is it that when we know that things are good for us, it's hard for us to do them? We need some sort of negative force to like push us.
Yeah. I don't know why that is, but it's the same. The closest analogy I could say would be religion. One of the sermons I was taught a long time ago was like, it's easy to find God when you're your lowest point, but when you're right and high, do you care just as much? When everything's going right, do you feel the need to be just as religious or just as this or that?
Well, that's
which is difficult.
Yeah, but I think that's why you have to have challenge in life. Like, I think that's why that happens.
Exactly.
Because we would be complacent otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to replace it with, is this challenge. Rather than this like hatred and this like drive to be better, it's like challenge through complexity, challenge through like diversity, and then, but making sure to pair it with immediately achievable goals and then also long-term goals. Because you get back to that, like, I can solve every problem that day overseas versus I need to pay my taxes and be successful in life, where it's that short-term versus that long-term problem. So having those short achievable goals to build momentum and stack those wins.
Yeah.
On top of these big overarching things that you can make progress towards.
I love it. I just thought of what I want to call your episode. I want to call it the one with the hero's journey.
There we go.
That's a perfect culmination of this. But like, it's a huge book. It's a super intellectual book. I could not quote you verbatim, like what it's about at all. But my takeaway from the book was that this is true in real life, but also every movie plot, every book that you've read basically uses this concept of the hero's journey, where you have your main character who hasn't really blossomed into their fullest potential yet, but it's there. And they have this calling, the calling of the wilds, the calling of their heart's desire to go pursue whatever it is. They go on this journey and they have all these adventures and challenges and characters that they meet along the way, only to return back to their hometown as the hero. And like The Alchemist, have you read The Alchemist?
No.
Really? Oh, you got to.
I should.
It's so aligned with you, like so aligned with you. And it's such an easy read too. It's a small book. It seemed, I feel like the way people talk about it, I thought it was going to be a big, thick book, but it's really not. It's very, can I spoil it for you?
Of course.
Okay, cool. You still should read it because there's so many parts to it. But like the main character, the boy, is exactly this. He has this dream about this treasure. He goes on this whole journey, meets all these people, his future wife, all these things, only to come back to his hometown to find out that the treasure that he dreamed of was buried in his own backyard. Which is such a great analogy, I think, for all of this, because it's like, whether it's challenges or physical like adventures that you need to go on for your hero's journey, it's just bringing out who you are. It's like, what's that quote where it's like, wherever you go, there you are. You can't escape yourself.
No.
So I don't know. I think that's what's so cool about it. Like, one challenge that I did was when I was 26, I went to Italy by myself for 8 days. I don't speak Italian, and I didn't speak Italian on the trip. And there was a lot of adventures, and it was probably one of the biggest. Ever since I turned 20, within reason, I'll do anything that scares me. And like, this was probably one of the biggest scares me things that I've done to date. And it's like I said, once you put yourself in those situations, you're going to have challenges, no doubt. It's not going to be easy peasy. But you have this like, okay, I could figure it out. And especially if you do it solo, there's no one around you to get mad at, to yell at. And you're only going to be mad at yourself for so long. Usually I'm not the type to get super mad at myself. I'm just more like, okay, let me go into problem solving mode. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to make sure I'm okay? And you do. For the most part. Exactly.
But then you also get to feel the real impact of like human kindness and human help.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, this shopkeeper helped me.
Yeah.
Or oh, this person helped me order, rather than like, oh, she's been my friend my whole life. Of course she has to help me. Or, oh, of course my parents love me. They're going to do whatever.
Right.
Or like just a random stranger being like, here, let me actually help you.
Totally.
And you get to feel that real impact of like humanity.
Yeah. I literally had that because I went on a train in Italy and I don't know where I was trying to get to, but anyways, I got on the wrong train apparently. And I had the thought to ask this woman, and she was so sweet. She literally walked me, not just pointing, but she like walked me to the proper train. I don't know where I would have ended up if it wasn't for her. Just 2 seconds out of her day, but she like really helped me, and I still remember it. And it's like years later.
Yeah, and that's part of it. You know, it's not all challenges and tribulations. Sometimes it's just discovering that the world is a nicer place than they see on TV.
It's so much nicer. I mean, listen, I'm not naive. I know there's evil in this world, and I know that there is a lot of like trauma and calamity going on a big scale and a small scale, right? Everywhere in the world. But I also think there's so much good, and I think majority of people are very good.
Mm-hmm.
The more I've gotten into the world and I've seen the world, the more I believe that.
Exactly. Once you're exposed to all these things, you realize the real, like, full color of the world.
Yeah.
The good and the bad. You know, you can think everything's rosy, rose-colored glasses. No, there's no crime. No, there's no violence. There's no such thing as evil. But I'm telling you, there is. I've looked it in the face.
Right.
And then at the same pay, you can be so angry at the world and so hateful and so down on your luck that you think everyone's evil. Everyone's trying to take something from you, always looking to be this or to be that. But the more you go out there and the more you put yourself in those challenging and those diverse situations, you can see like the world's a lot more like that full color spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool. That's why I'm so psyched about my trip.
Mm-hmm.
To like Mount Kilimanjaro to climb a mountain. I'm not an outdoorsy girl. I'm just not. Everything about this is uncomfortable for me. But I was telling like my friends and family, I'm like, yeah, but like if I'm gonna go camping, let me do it somewhere cool.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna go to like Podunk, Missouri and like camp for a weekend. Let me go to Africa and like have an experience. Cody was saying how when he went to the mountain, he asked permission from the mountain before he climbed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I've heard anyone, whether it's here in the US, like in Colorado or wherever they're going to like climb a mountain, it's just this spiritual experience that like sticks with people forever. And like mountains are this analogy that we all use for everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
So to physically climb it, you're like, well, if I physically could climb a mountain, I could do anything at that point, you know?
Yeah, there's one of my favorite documentaries on whatever it's on these days. It's called 180 Degrees South.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, the owners of North Face and Patagonia drove from California all the way down to Patagonia in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And they climbed this mountain that had never been climbed before with all handmade and homemade equipment. So the documentary is all about this guy who wanted to recreate that. But obviously, you know, it's modern. So just taking a van down there is super easy now because you just drive the transcontinental highway. So he gets on a boat, and then the boat gets thrashed, and then he ends up on Easter Island, and it turns into this whole unknowing adventure. But in it, you would like it for the mountain climbing and all the analogies that they use in the adventure. It's one of my favorite ones when I'm feeling like a little bit numb or a little bit like stagnant.
Yeah.
And just like rediscovering that little bit of light of adventure.
Yeah.
You'd like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I know I joke the fact that I'm like I'm a princess and all these things. And Cody was like, "Are you sure you know what you're getting yourself into?" And I'm like, "I sure don't. I sure don't." But as long as I intentionally know that I'm going into a situation where it's like I'm going to be roughing it. Mm-hmm. When I know that versus being thrown into it are two very different situations. Yeah. Like if the power goes out here in St. Louis, I am the biggest brat you have ever met in your entire life. But if I'm going into a situation knowing that I'm like sleeping in tents and there's no public bathrooms and just being in nature, like there's 7 climate zones in the world. And on this mountain, we're climbing through 5 of them. Mm-hmm. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I need to get away from modern day life.
It's that Misogi, that under the waterfall, that change of pace.
Literally. That's what I want to do. I want to feel without like the distractions of just the modern world and like the soft life, you know? And it's like, I don't want to go into war to do that. I just want to do like this really hard challenge. And I mean, Cody's in better shape than me. And he said it was the hardest physical thing like he's ever done, and mental and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I don't even know what it's going to be like for me, but I'm just here for it.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know you incredibly well, but I will tell you that I'm pretty sure you're discounting yourself, because I think the same tenacity that led you to be an entrepreneur, the same tenacity that's brought you through some of these lower points of your life, is the same tenacity that can be applied to like living in a tent. It's that same challenge. It's just a different modality.
Yeah.
You know, the same challenge that wanted you to do an ice bath. You even thought you were on the Titanic, you know? Yeah. I think you have a lot more tenacity in you than you're giving yourself credit for.
Yeah. I love that you use the word tenacity, because my adopted grandmother, she was in high school, we were assigned different women in the community, the Jewish community, who husbands had passed, family was kind of grown up and out of the way, so they were lonely. So we would go and visit them. And she was from the South. Her name was Genevieve Kramer. She just passed this year at 100 years old. And she was such an incredible woman. But I would say sometimes to her that I was stubborn. And she was like, no, Nahama, you're tenacious. You've got tenacity. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, it's like stubborn, but with a purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that immovable, but it's a force. It's a movement towards something, and it's like a running through a wall.
And I feel like for me, I'm also a woman of my word. So if I say I'm going to do something, even if it's super hard, like I can't quit until it's done, you know? Yeah. And like you said, with everything, whether it's yoga or breath work, these are all tools that will be so helpful because it's just being present, taking one moment at a time. Like you don't start climbing a mountain thinking about the summit, you know, like that's the goal, obviously, but just, I want to be so present for every part that I'm there for.
Yep.
Because there's so much to experience.
Yeah. I mean, you had all those different climates. You got a brand new thing, maybe first time climbing a mountain. Like, there's going to be a lot all packed into one. But it's going to be a lot of greatness packed into one.
Yeah. And so like I'll be 29 when I go on the trip. So I'm like, this is like my goodbye to my 20s trip. Or that's how I'm thinking. Like once I have a brick and mortar, it's going to be harder to go on these kind of vacations like away. So that's also my thought, where it's like, let me just do something really impactful for myself before I go. And then I'm also, another thing is I'm doing it for charity too, which is why it aligns with me. So like I pledged to raise $8,500. It's called For Team Friendship. They support kids and young adults with special needs.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah. So every person who like donates, whether it's like $5 or $100, like they're all investing in me. So as I'm climbing, I'm not just climbing for like all these kids who I'm helping, but it's also all the people who believes in me and are donating towards my trip, you know?
Yeah, no, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And the easiest thing to do with big hikes like that are one foot in front of the other. Nothing. As soon as you eat breakfast, start thinking about the next meal.
I should or should not?
You should.
Okay, why?
That way you're like, oh, it just helps the time pass. These are old Marine tricks.
Okay, thank you. This is so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's just, I can't wait to have lunch. I can't wait to have lunch.
Good idea.
That's the only, rather than thinking about the pain or looking up at the top of the mountain, thinking I have another week to go.
Just focus on the meal.
Nothing exists until the next meal. And then as soon as you eat lunch, nothing exists but dinner.
So smart.
Yep. And then there's a few other techniques that are more like, what kind of shoes are you wearing?
I got these like hiker boots, but I don't know which brand. I don't know brands, but it's a good brand. I
always wear white socks when I did hikes, because the black socks create like they're hotter, and two, they hold on to fungus and stuff better because they're darker. Oh. And the white socks you don't care about. You can throw them away as soon as they're done. Just wear one per day.
What about colorful ones? I have a whole bunch of colorful ones.
Yeah, that might be great too. Okay. But just lightness. And then one trick that I had is you take your socks, taller socks, and you roll them over the top like that. Okay. That way it wicks the sweat up and out and leaves a little bit of room. And it doesn't constrict, because as you hike, that sock is going to slide down and create almost like a little mini tourniquet around your ankle.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
so
I have
when you fold it
compression
over
socks.
when you fold it over the top, it doesn't let it slide down. And so you'll never get that constriction.
Oh.
And it wicks that sweat up and out.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then lots of moleskin for blisters.
Which one?
Moleskin.
Moleskin?
Yeah.
I need that.
It's like a thick bandage that you can just place over a big blister or anything that'll happen.
Okay.
That way it'll rub on that rather than rub on the blister.
Good, because I definitely get blisters. I have a few right now from running.
Yeah.
Kind of in pain, but it's fine.
The other one, not incredibly recommended, but it's fun to know. So back in the day, how they used to get rid of blisters is you take a sewing needle with some thread,
Oof.
put it through,
Ah.
and then cut the needle off so that there's just thread sitting in it.
Ah.
That way, every time it fills up with like pus or white blood cells or anything at all, it wicks out onto that string
Ah.
rather than reloading.
Okay.
So that's an old way to get rid of blisters.
Okay.
Hopefully you don't have to use that one.
Okay. Panicking.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation on sleep? Because obviously sleep and recovery is like super important for a 7-day hike, but the elevation is also going to make it somewhat difficult, and it's cold at night.
Mm-hmm. What about sleep?
How do I get it? Because I want to make sure I'm sleeping.
So if you wanted to bring something to help you, do magnesium threonate.
Okay.
Just little gummies you can get on Amazon. Pop a serving size in when you're ready to go to bed. But to be honest, you're probably going to be so exhausted that sleep's not going to be a problem.
That's what I'm thinking. We're hiking for like 7 to 8 hours every day.
Yeah, but then the other big thing is a pad. I don't know if they're providing the sleeping systems and stuff, but
They are, but I've heard people say to bring an additional insert that makes a big difference, like the
yeah,
pad.
so
and
they
shit.
have nice like self-inflating ones for like $20 at Walmart by Coleman.
Okay.
And so it's like a little mini air mattress.
We love bougie on a budget. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so that's one that once you rated it, you could bring out to the Field of the Marines rather than just like a little styrofoam deal.
Mm.
And then hopefully they have bug nets for you. But yeah, other than that, they seem like they're providing everything. Those are just some little tips and tricks. And that magnesium threonate is an easy way to at least help a little bit with sleep.
One of the girls from a previous trip said she brought like a hot water bottle at night to sleep in her sleeping bag, and that helped with being cold.
Yeah, if you're worried about that, definitely a hot water bottle, putting it like near the foot where it's not going to burn you or something.
Mm.
And then, so do you have to bring your own sleeping bag?
No, I think they're providing that.
Yeah. So one of the things you can do is get it's called a whoopee. It's a military style blanket that you put inside your sleeping bag and you'll never be cold.
Really?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's super light and it can fold up into like this small.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Love
then
that.
throw that in your sleeping bag with your sleeping bag and you'll be good to go.
Okay. Thanks.
Of course.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah. It's going to be a great time.
It's going to be so great. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing everything about you and your story and your journey. I have a tradition.
Okay.
At the end of each episode, this whole podcast is based on this Hebrew quote, which is which means one who is wise is one who learns from everyone. And I know we just brushed the surface with you, but like this is so insightful and so much fun. So if you can leave us with like one last quotable quote or a life lesson.
I don't have anything completely esoteric
That's
or
okay.
super life arching, but the only motto that I've ever tried to follow in my life is every night is Friday night, every morning is Monday morning. You know, get all the work done, but don't kill yourself. Enjoy it. You know?
Love that. That's so great. It's so funny too, because I think our Friday nights have a little bit of a different like connotation. Like most people, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but most people, like at least in Western culture, Friday night is like party, having fun, going out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Friday night, it's our Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
So my mom, or one day when I have my own home, she'll light the candles, and then like the men go to synagogue, and when they come back, there's just this aura of peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of I don't know, if you're not Jewish, it's impossible to really explain this sensation unless you've experienced it, of just being like off the grid. Like you can be running around a mile a minute before Shabbos trying to get everything done because there's certain things you can't do on Shabbos. So you need to make sure they're done before Shabbos.
Mhm.
So everyone's just running around like a Tasmanian devil. Like, did you shower? We have 18 minutes. Let's go. And then the next thing you know, the mom lights the candles. The woman of the home lights the candles. And there's just this blanket of peace
Mhm.
that envelops everything. And it's so incredible. And so it's like, for me, when you said every night is Friday night and every morning is Monday morning, that's what I'm thinking of, just having that time of just peace and family.
Yeah.
Good food.
So means different things to different people, and you can
Yeah.
extrapolate it out to life. You know, don't be afraid to go have dinner with your friends or to go on a big trip to Mount Kilimanjaro. As long as you're getting your work done, don't lose out on life just because you feel like you have to grind.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. And sometimes what makes people want to work with you anyways is when you are a person of like culture and you follow these adventures, you know, it makes it more relatable, you know?
Exactly.
You never know. The right people will find you.
Uh-huh.
For sure. So I want to just make sure before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share that you haven't shared yet?
I mean, ... 4 hours later. Good callback, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, just I'm all about breathwork. We have a couple of breathworks releasing for availability online to buy or to preview.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our sauna van coming out as well as our teacher trainings. And if you're in Wildwood or West County, definitely come stop by the studio, Fox Company Yoga. We are a different kind of yoga and we're awesome. So come on through.
Yeah. And I'll put all the links. You could send me whatever you want me to share. I'll put those in the description so people can find you super easily.
Good to go.
So that'll be great. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys for listening or watching. And if you're not already watching, go on YouTube or Spotify. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. I hope you guys have a great week. Let's get it. Let's go.